of that. I'll give a quick introduction to Austin. I met Austin when he was a student. I invited a group of interns to work on a project for Homebase, and of the group, Austin was an obvious and quick standout. And even way back then, he was looking at LinkedIn. He was working at LinkedIn, and he was already consulting as a student, already working with others on optimizing their LinkedIn profiles, and had already given a TED talk on LinkedIn. So he then went to LinkedIn as a full-time employee, and has been able to leverage LinkedIn for, like it said in the description, I think it said over 250 different job offers. And what else was there? What else was there, Austin, in that description?
Oh man, you're making me sound too good. No, I actually have a slide that I'll kind of go over a little bit of my
All right,
experience, but so I'll see if I can hit some of those points. But
all right, well, I'll just turn it over to Austin, and then he can talk about his experience there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Moroni, for setting this up, and thanks everyone for being here. I mean, it says a lot about you and your, desire to learn and grow, since you're taking this time out of your day. So hope it can be helpful and productive. I honestly love LinkedIn. I've spent hundreds of hours on it, and I could talk about it for hours. So hopefully the info that we can share will be helpful for you, and then we'll open it up for questions. And so hope to be able to get to everyone's questions. But I'm going to share my screen, and I want to double check. Moroni, can you see the presentation that I have up?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And since I'm sharing my screen, I'm not able to see chat. And so if there are any specific questions that you think would be beneficial, I definitely love your help in maybe just like stopping me at a certain point and saying if there's anything. Sweet.
I'll just say, if you have questions, just throw them into the chat, and we'll get to them at different points throughout the presentation. But yeah, feel free to just throw them right in there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Rona. But yeah, so everyone, nice to meet you. I graduated in April of 2021, so crazy that it's already been about 3 years. That's when I met Moroni. It was my junior year of college. I was doing an internship and worked with him. And then after, I think during my senior year, I went back and started working with him in Homebase. It's awesome to see the things that the company has been able to achieve. But honestly, my experience on LinkedIn, it started out very rough. I remember like my sophomore year, I started applying to all of these jobs, and all of them were asking for a LinkedIn profile. I was like, oh man. Like, oh, sorry. I think there we go. But yeah, so I was applying to all these jobs and got rejected by all of them. My LinkedIn profile was really bad, and they were all asking for it. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should start spending more time on LinkedIn. So I just started consuming as much information as I could, watching videos, reading articles, and things like that. And then I started to post content. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know there's a lot more people out there also who don't know much. And so I just started sharing my experiences, and from there it just started to grow. And over the next 2 years, I went from 0 job offers to receiving over 300 job offers from recruiters on LinkedIn, like reaching out. All 6 of my internships, and full-time role at LinkedIn, all of it can pretty much be attributed to my experiences on LinkedIn. I had over 375 informational interviews, just like people I saw on the platform, reached out to them, messaged them, had 30-minute conversations. A lot of them turned into mentors. To date, I've optimized over 1,500 profiles. I honestly really enjoy it, and it's taught me a lot about the kind of like profile optimization. I did recruiting for a year, so that helped me as well. Someone reached out to me about doing a TEDx talk because they're like, hey, I've seen your content on LinkedIn. Do you want to apply to be a TEDx speaker? I've done probably like 80 plus trainings and podcasts appearances about LinkedIn. And then honestly, uh, when I graduated, LinkedIn helped me land a $30,000 raise, and then 2 years later, a $50,000 raise. And so, not just as a college student, but after graduation, it's helped me a lot to be able to progress my career. But as students, let me know in the chat if this is something that you have experienced. But from what I saw for myself and many people around me, is it's just not really taught very well. Like in class and in schools, like no one really teaches you how to use LinkedIn. Like some of the professors are like, hey, you should create a LinkedIn profile and network with professionals, but like they don't actually teach you how to do it. So like you're mostly left on your own to figure things out. And a lot of the time when it comes to applying for jobs, it's like, okay, now what do I do now? And so I hope that that has gotten better, but curious to hear if that's a similar experience for a lot of university students. Like you're mostly left on your own to figure things out, and like good luck, get jobs, you know. And so I what I was hoping for this time is to be able to share like I said, I can talk for hours about LinkedIn, but I want to focus on what I think are some of the most beneficial ways that you can leverage LinkedIn to be able to land a job and to be able to progress your career. And so I'm going to jump right in there. And I'm going to start with the profile itself. So there's like a few different aspects of LinkedIn. There's 50% of it is actually your LinkedIn profile, like making sure that it's robust. And then that's where you can kind of get like recruiters reaching out to you in your sleep. And then the other 50% is what you do with it, is being proactive with your LinkedIn profile, reaching out to people, posting content, commenting, and making sure that your profile gets seen by more people. And so I'm going to cover both of those, but kind of diving right in, I'm not going to talk about like a lot of the basic things. I want to be able to dive deeper into the things that I think will actually be beneficial for you as a student. And so stuff like profile picture, yeah, I'm not going to dive into that. Most profile pictures that I've seen are very good. Uh, the main thing is just you want your face to occupy like 70% of the profile of the photo. Other than that, I haven't seen too many bad profile pictures in my time. Cover photo, that I'll go into that a little bit more. The main four parts of the profile that I want to focus on today. So if you focus 80% of your time on four specific parts of your profile, that will bring most of the results. And those parts of your profile are one, your headline, two, your about section, number three, your experience section, and number four is your skills section. Like those are, from what I've seen, the four most important parts of your profile. And if you can get those right, you're going to stand out in a lot more recruiter searches than other people. And so the rest are helpful, but I don't want to dive into too much time from that. I mentioned just briefly like cover photo. The main thing is, there's like a good, better, best. Like good is that you have a cover photo. Like some cover photo is better than none. So that's good. Better is something that can answer the question, hey, why did you pick that photo? So it's not like, oh, it was a pretty picture that I saw online, or oh, it's mountains, super pretty. You could be like, oh, this is my university, this is my hometown, oh, this is where, X, Y, and Z. So anything that you could say why you picked it, that's better. And best is something that establishes like a first impression. And so it can be like a value proposition, what you do, what skills you bring to the table, something that kind of establishes credibility, like public speaking or a portfolio. What I love and what I actually decided to do in Canva was based off of something that I saw from someone's profile. It just says a lot about them. Like they're a Boy Scout. They were for 8 years. Their first car was a Volvo wagon. They were born in Chicago. They love apple cider, things like that. And I loved that because I had never met this person, but I already felt like we were friends. Like if I hopped on a call, I'd already have 10 talking points to be able to talk with them and communicate with them. So like I said, don't want to dive too much into this section, but that's hopefully a few ideas to start thinking about cover photo to be able to have a better first impression. But yeah, like I said, the first of the four main sections that I wanted to cover today is the first is the headline. And right here, I took a picture. I just went onto LinkedIn and typed it, like looked at profiles, and all of these red letters is a default headline. So like 80% of them right here is a default headline. And that means that they've never changed it before. So if you've never changed your headline, then it defaults to your job title at the company that you work for. And if you're not currently working, then it will say student at Northeastern University because you're currently studying. And so that's how I know if someone hasn't ever changed their headline is it will say their title at the company they work for and nothing else. And so there's a lot of opportunity to improve it. And if your goal for using LinkedIn, so I want to backtrack real quick. I think with using LinkedIn, one of the most important things for you to decide is like why you want to use it. So if you're a job seeker, then a lot of the tips that I'll share with you are going to be helpful. If you're looking to build a business or build a personal brand, then some of these different recommendations you'll apply differently. And so what I mean by that is if you're a job seeker, then you want to pay attention to this slide. And I would highly recommend implementing this and changing whatever headline you have if you haven't already done something like this. So LinkedIn it's pretty much like a glorified Google. It's a search engine. Like that's how recruiters find people. And the way that you appear is by using SEO. So like search engine optimization. Just like if I typed best Python learning or like Python tutorial for beginners into Google, the things that would appear at the top of the Google search will guaranteed have Python and will likely have tutorial for beginners because that is an exact match for the search term that I put into Google. And likewise for LinkedIn, hiring managers and recruiters, when they have a job description, they're looking up specific keywords based off of the job description to find candidates to appear like at the top of the recruiter search. And that's based off of the keywords that you do. And so if your goal for using LinkedIn is to find a job, then what I'd recommend is this simple headline. And it's formatted like current position. So what are you currently doing or studying? What experienced past position that you have that's relevant to the role that you're interested in? And then what are 3 hard skills? It could be more, but at least 3 hard skills that are relevant to the role that you're looking for. And so right here, I have some examples, like senior software engineer at Quest Global. And then they C, ARM, OS, RTOS, Power BI, Python, SQL, Excel, things like that. And another example is like marketing intern at X company, experienced digital marketer, SEO, paid ads, social media marketing. And it's just a very simple way you're able to get SEO value for your current title. So like marketing intern. And then if you have any past internships or experiences, then you can also get SEO value from those past titles. And then these skills right here, let's say Python, Power BI, Tableau. If a recruiter is searching for someone who has Python skills or visualization skills, then they're much more likely to appear on page 1 of the recruiter search instead of page 4 or 5 because they are using this valuable headline real estate. So I know I'm talking a lot. Marona, are we good so far? Let me know if there's any pauses or anything that I should address. If not, I'll keep going. Okay.
So Austin, I have one question.
Yeah.
So here you have put it like for folks who are working already. What about students? Should we mention student anywhere or should we just mention our past experience?
If the past experience is relevant to the roles that you're looking for, then I'd mention the past experience. If you are a student studying a field that is relevant to the roles that you're looking for, so if it's an engineering student or something that your course or your major actually has that keyword, so like engineering, then that is also a relevant keyword that you can do. And then also, if you participate in clubs, that's another keyword. Like you can include what the title is of clubs that you're involved in. But when relevant, I would say experience, like current experience trumps everything. Past experience if it's relevant, and then student title or like what you're studying if none of those others are relevant to roles that you're looking for. So great question. Love that. This one I'm not going to dive into too much, but like I said, if your goal is not to find a job, then your headline would look a lot different. You wouldn't really be using keywords. You would instead be talking about why someone should click on your profile. Because the person you're trying to attract isn't using LinkedIn Recruiter, they're just using regular LinkedIn search bar. And from that, it's hard to stand out if you don't tell them what they do. And so if you're building a business, trying to build a brand, then a good example is just like, I help your target audience do X, Y, and Z. So like this, I help people land amazing jobs without applying online. Need help with your job search? Let's talk. So like if I was looking for a career coach, instead of just like seeing someone career coach, if I saw this, I was like, whoa, I want to land a job without applying online, I click on their profile. And so that's just something kind of to keep in mind is your profile differs a lot if your goal isn't to look for a LinkedIn profile and look for a job. You're really just focusing on the pain points that your target audience has. And then you can do a combination of both, like, like your current role, what you help, but I'd usually recommend sticking to one or the other based off of your goal. And so that is like the first part of the very four important parts of your profile is your headline. Include as much hard skills as you can. And then the second is just a brief, I'll try not to like go into this too much because I could dive a lot of time into the about section, but I know we have limited time today. And so I want to make sure we get to everything. But if you want to take a screenshot of this or, something, this is probably the most effective template that I've seen across the 1,500 profiles that I've personally reviewed. And that's one, start by telling a story, like have a hook. And the reason why that's important is because LinkedIn, just like most articles, it has a cap. Like right here, I have like 150 to 200 characters to convince the person to click see more. And so if this right now is just like blah, boring, I'm not going to read, I'm not going to click see more. And so it doesn't matter what is in the rest of my about section if they don't click see more. And so the goal of these first lines is to get them to click see more to read the rest of your about section. And so you can do that by telling a story. Like, why did you pick your career? How did you get to where you are today? Or like, what's an obstacle you've had to overcome and why? And then after, pretty simple, just cover past, present, and future. Like, what have you done? What have you learned from those? What are you currently doing? Are you studying? What are you passionate about? And then a few sentences about the future, like what are you interested in pursuing? Like what types of roles are you interested in? Have like a little call to action, like, hey, if you've read this far, I'd love to connect. Or message me if you want a copy of my resume. And then a very important part of the about section, since LinkedIn is that search engine, I'm going to go back to SEO all the time. Like you want skills included in your sections. And so a very easy way to do that is at the bottom of your about section, have a skills include paragraph. And so what this is this tells recruiters like right up front, a lot of the skills that you have. And honestly, I need to update mine. Even though I'm not currently looking for a role, it's good to start appearing in more recruiter searches. If sales or business development or digital marketing wasn't mentioned anywhere else in my LinkedIn profile, I would still appear in a recruiter search because it's mentioned right here at the bottom of my LinkedIn profile, at the bottom of my about section. And if digital marketing is mentioned in my about section, my headline, my experience section, and my skills section, then I'm more likely to appear higher for that skill than someone who has 100 endorsements for digital marketing, because I'm showing the algorithm that I am really good at digital marketing. And so at the end, I would just include this. And then something that I didn't include, but I found to be really successful, and actually the most referenced part of my profile is like what you like to do when you're not at work or school. So like include, it just shows personality, what you enjoy. Like I enjoy video games, golf, tennis, frisbee. Here's like some of the video games that I enjoy. And so this is often a part that hiring managers or people in a interview, they bring up, like, oh, I saw you like this, like, awesome, I love this. So it just builds common ground. And so that is like my tips for the about section. Make the story, make it personable, but also highlight what you've done. And then after that, the other two parts of the profile that I want to focus on, there's so many parts. There's usually 31 parts of a profile that I check, like different things if they have checked when I review someone's profile. I don't have time to get to all of it. I'm mostly focusing on 4, but other things like, have a featured section. If you don't have anything to feature, have a get to know you PowerPoint. Like, hey, my name's Austin. This is what I like to do. Pictures, things like that. Activity section, this actually shows for the past 365 days if you posted or commented. So recruiters can see if you're actually utilizing LinkedIn. It's not just for posting, they actually take this into account. And the reason why is a recruiter, they have limited amounts of InMail credits. So what that is if you're not connected, I can message you for 1 credit, and they only have a limited amount every month. But if you respond to their message, then they get that refunded. So it's as if they didn't use any InMail credits. And so if I saw in someone's activity section that the last time they commented on a post was 4 months ago, then I'm probably not going to message them, because I'm like, I have no evidence or no proof that they have been on LinkedIn in the past 4 months. So why am I going to risk a message to someone who probably isn't logging on every day? And so they won't see that, and I'll lose my InMail credit. I'm going to message someone who's been on LinkedIn in the past week. And if I message them, they're likely going to see my response. And so that's why activity is also important, not just like putting yourself out there. But in terms of the experience section, this is number 3. So headline, about section, experience section. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to dive too much into it. The one pro tip that I would say that not many people talk about is use your job title. Most people just say what their job title is, Associate Digital Growth Manager. And that's leveraging maybe 30% of the full capacity of this part of a profile. You have up to 100 characters per job title that you can use. And so what I recommend is after the job title, include the 2 most important hard skills that you use in your role that is relevant to your career interests. And so I say like Associate Digital Growth Manager, Program Management, Sales Enablement. And because that's in my job title section, that gives a lot more SEO value to my profile for these specific skills. And so if you're a software engineer, instead of just saying software engineering intern, then talk about the different languages or the different softwares that you use that are in a lot of job descriptions. And so if you're kind of struggling to know, all right, what skills should I focus on? What I would recommend doing, I saw a lot of engineering stuff, like a lot of engineering students. So I'm going to say that intern roles. So what I would recommend doing, let's just go like right here. Cool. Adobe. I would open 10 to 15 job descriptions and then scroll down to the responsibilities and requirements and read through like 10 to 15 of these. And so right here, what is required for this qualification? Okay, Java, C++, JavaScript, Python, designing, developing, deploying, like the development life cycle, communication skills, bug fixing, API documentation, code review, etc. And so I would do this for 10 to 15 job descriptions. And if something is repeated in like 50% of those jobs, then that is a good indicator of something that you should be adding to your LinkedIn profile. So if you saw Java or C++ or Python on at least 50% of those job descriptions, that's a good indicator of the types of roles, like the types of job skills that you want to include in your headline, about section, experience section, skills section. And then at the end of each experience section, I recommend just having like a similar to the about section, like skills used in role. And then copy your bullet points from your resume, but also add more. LinkedIn, you're not limited to one page, so give as much context as you can. Like this one, I actually, for one of my internships at LinkedIn, I think I'm almost maxing out the number of like text that I can use. I think I had to trim this down. But yeah, talk about what you're doing and then add as many, images and links and portfolio work as you can, because one, it adds color, but it also shows like your creativity, and it's like a show not tell. Like I talk about a one pager that I created for LinkedIn, I include that here. I was a top performer here at Okta, I include that from like the call. So just start thinking of like different attachments that you can include in your experience section. Honestly, not too much to it. This section is pretty self-explanatory, but it's all about, being able to leverage the job title and like the skills that you have in your profile. And then after that, education, I'm not going to dive too much into this, just include more than what you're studying. Talk about clubs that you're a part of. You can also include images. I show like an image from the TED Talk that I gave when I was a student, presentations, things like that. And then licenses, certifications. Okay, cool. Volunteering, similar. The last part I wanted to talk about is skills. It used to be you could only add 50, but now you can add 100. And I would recommend adding as many skills as you can honestly say that you have. I've heard like one of the biggest myths and things that I want to debunk for people is they're like, oh, I don't want to include too many skills because it looks like I'm lying, or it doesn't, like, I don't want to spread myself too thin. If anyone is telling you to use less skills on your skills section, that is actively hurting you. Because as a recruiter, I know firsthand that each one of these different skills is an opportunity for your profile to appear, and it actually shows like that it's shown in your skills section. And so marketing, content strategy, business development, all of these different things. So as many skills that you see in job descriptions, try and include as many as you can in your skills section, up to 100. And a general thing, so I've been doing job search consulting for about 5-6 years now. And a good rule of thumb that someone once taught me is the point when you can kind of include it on your LinkedIn profile is when you've spent about 2 to 3 hours of like video tutorials learning about it. So if I didn't know, if I didn't have experience with Tableau, then I'd go on YouTube and probably watch 3-4 hours worth of like tutorials. And at that point, I'm at least beyond a beginner proficiency. And so the goal of the LinkedIn profile is to get you an interview. In the interview, if they asked about my Tableau skills, I wouldn't lie and be like, oh yeah, I'm an expert. I'd say, yeah, I've been learning about Tableau. I know it's an incredibly valuable skill. I've been taking courses, learning more about it. And I do feel confident that I would be able to learn and continue to, get the job done for this. And so you're not going to lie and be like, yeah, I'm an expert. But that's kind of like when you can kind of include something in your skills section. And then reach out, get recommendations, honors awards, the rest of that. That's kind of like top to bottom, a lot of the parts of the profile that I would focus on in how to improve it to appear on your profile. I think the last caveat that I want to mention is try to avoid including as many soft skills as you can. And so soft skills are things like, detail oriented, problem solver, communication. These things are important, but it's pretty much dead space on your LinkedIn profile because every single person in the world can describe themselves with a soft skill. All of us in this call could say that we have communication skills. And recruiters, if they see 300 people out of 300 people write communication skills, it's like, okay, everyone has it. So it's like, I'm just going to look past it. And it's biased. I could say that I'm an amazing communicator. And then I hop on a call with Morona, and after he's like, oof, Austin sucks at communicating. So it's like, who's actually judging if you have the skill or not? If with Python, you either know it or you don't. And so I would focus on hard skills. But this is kind of like my high level overview and like recommendations of how you can start focusing on your LinkedIn profile to start appearing in more recruiter searches and be found for more job opportunities. I'm going to take like 10 minutes to just focus on the other side of LinkedIn before I open it up to questions. And so this part, I'll be pretty quick, but there's 3 things that I want to recommend. One is how to use the search bar. This is the exact process that I took so when I wanted to intern at LinkedIn, I knew that internships opened up in September. And so in January, I started doing this process and preparing to land an internship at LinkedIn. And so what I would recommend is if you have a dream job, a dream company, start doing this. Go to the company page of the company that you want to work for. And then underneath the headline, underneath the cover photo, it shows how many employees work there that have a LinkedIn profile. Click on this. And then this shows me 28,000 people work at LinkedIn that have a LinkedIn profile. And then under the search bar, come over here to all filters. And then there are so many different things that you can do. You can go over here to, Northeastern. Show me everyone Northeastern University. Show me every current employee at LinkedIn who graduated from Northeastern. There's 121 people who graduated from Northeastern who I could talk to. And so find someone who is in a role that you'd be interested in learning more about. Come down, okay, they graduated, had a Master of Science here, and then send them a message. I'll get into like how to craft that message, but start reaching out to people from your alma mater. Another one that I honestly love is right here. Let's see, past company. So I grew up working in my family's Hawaiian restaurant. And so I wanted to figure out how to break into tech even though my experience was just like restaurant experience. And so what you can do if you worked in a different industry, you can start typing in like all of the most prominent companies in that industry. So let's go Burger King, let's go Starbucks, and then maybe Domino's. So these are companies that are in the food industry. If I show results, there's currently 104 people who work at LinkedIn currently who used to work at either McDonald's, Starbucks, Burger King, or one of the other restaurants that I put in. And so if I come in, click here, like look at their profile, kind of learn more about their experience. Okay, they were a summer intern, and then I can find more about like people who were actually frontline workers. That they were just like a cashier at one of these restaurants. See, this person was a barista at Starbucks. And then they transition and now they're working at LinkedIn. And so this would be a great person to connect with And in my message, I would mention how I saw that they used to work in the food industry and transitioned into tech. And I would love to learn more about their experience as to how they did that, since I have experience in the restaurant industry. And so there are so many different filters that you can use to just network on LinkedIn. Like the whole goal of it is to find people that you have common ground with. And then once you have those people in mind, what I'd recommend is send a connection request. Like state the common link that you have with them. Hey, I saw you graduated from Northeastern. I saw you worked at Starbucks. I also did that. And then the main thing is show that it's not a copy and paste message that you could send to everyone. Like I read your article about this. I said you worked here, or anything like that, and then send the connection request. After that, after that could take a week or two, a few weeks for them to accept the connection request. Send them a message. When I knew that I wanted to work at LinkedIn, I did that, and then I just started messaging the people who connected. I sent this to a senior vice president at LinkedIn, and I was like, I wasn't scared about the title. I knew they were high up. I was like, all right, let's just try it. And so in your outreach messages, what I'd recommend is like this red part, find a golden nugget in their profile that you want to learn more about. And so for them, they made a bullet point about how they designed a system that predicted staffing needs 18 months in advance. I was like, whoa, so cool. That shows that I researched their profile. Number two, have a specific ask. Like I'm interested in learning more about the field of recruiting. I'd love to run some questions by you, etc. This green part is something that I would change. Like I would not recommend doing what I did here. It still worked, but I was like, I know your time is valuable, so please don't feel the need to respond in depth. If you have 5 minutes to chat, I'd really appreciate it. One, I'd get rid of the 5 minutes to chat. These days, like 5 minutes is barely enough time to log into Zoom. And so like once that passes, you're on borrowed time. And so like don't mention like 5 minutes if you're not actually going to just talk for 5 minutes and end it. And then this increased my acceptance rate by about 50%. I saw this from an influencer who recommended this strategy, but it's called an easy out clause. And so it'd be like, you make the ask and then you say like, I know your time is valuable, so if you're not able to, that's not a problem at all. Like either way, I'm excited to be connected. And so it's kind of acknowledging their time. Like it's how many people have seen those sales emails like, hey, let's talk. How about Tuesday at 4 p.m.? It's like, whoa, don't just assume that I'm going to say yes. Like with the easy out, you're acknowledging that they're busy, no worries. And so if they can't say yes, like it's not a problem. I don't know what the full psychological thing is, but it works wonders. And then this was his response, like, hey, yeah, let's chat, give me a call. And then this part, just something to keep in mind. If your goal is to land an internship in September, something opens up, it takes a while. The connection request, it might take a week or so for them to respond. It might take another week to respond to the message. And so this isn't something like last ditch effort. You have to plan and try this. And then if you hop on a call, they've never really met you before. If you're really bold, you can ask them for a referral. But what I've found the most success with is, talking with them, being like, hey, thanks so much for talking with me. Hearing about your experiences has only increased my desire to work for a company like LinkedIn. I'll actually be applying to this position. Do you have any tips for my application? And then from there, they will share pro tips of how to stand out in the application process. But with this, I asked this 8 times, and each time the person offered a referral. So it was a great way without overstepping boundaries, that they were like, yeah, actually, I'd be happy to give you a referral. And so that's, like I said, I can talk for hours about all of these different things. There's so many different strategies for using LinkedIn. The last 2 things, I just want to cover 2 more things before I open it up to questions. There's so much value in posting content on LinkedIn, but it's sometimes scary. If you're scared, start with comments. Like right here, I've highlighted 5 comments that people did that had an accumulation of 168 likes and 61 comments. And so comments are like mini posts that have a prompt. And if you want engagement like this on comments, then what I recommend is find influencers in your niche that you're interested in, hit the bell icon so you know when they post, and then try and leave a comment in the first 30 minutes of after they posted. Usually people are online for like 30 to 60 minutes after they post, and they're much more likely to respond to comments and be at the top of the feed. And those are the comments that usually get interacted with. I think one time I gained like 900 followers from a comment that I left on a post that got seen by a ton of people. It got like 200 likes as well. Like, whoa, I got 900 followers from a comment. That's crazy. And then the last thing I talk about is content creation. Literally just dive in. Like, there's this famous saying, how fast do you have to run to survive a bear attack? Faster than your friend. Like, it's humanly impossible to outrun a bear. Like, they're so much faster than humans. But if you're faster than your next buddy, they'll get caught first. Maybe a morbid example, but to post on LinkedIn, you don't have to be a professional. You just have to know a little bit more than the person that you're posting for. And so when I started posting on LinkedIn, I had read a few articles. And so I was like, well, I'm going to post and gear it towards beginners who know nothing about LinkedIn. Likewise, if you know something about Python, SQL, or something that like you would want to gain thought leadership in, start posting for beginners. And if like there's so many different things I'd want to talk about. But one thing the last thing I'll mention is you can create what I call a content garden. And so it starts with your core topic. So my core topic was I chose to do LinkedIn. From that trunk, you have branches. So I guarantee if there's something that at least at an intermediate level, you could break that up into 5 categories. So like on LinkedIn, there's profile optimization, there's about sections, there's outreach, etc. And then for each branch, create a leaf. And those leaves are like a specific tip. So an example that is completely not business related, I love golf. And so golf is my tree. This is like the territory, this is the topic that I want to become a thought leader in. And so I break that up into 5 branches. In golfing, there's putting, driving, clubs, drills, personal things. And then from there, I could break that up into leaves, like putting. Like, what is the best way to read the green? What kind of putter should I use? Drills, like how can I hit straight? When should I use a 56 degree versus a 60 degree? Or personal stories, like one time I got a black eye. One time I got hit 3 times in the same day in a tournament. Here's my favorite courses, things like that. And so each one of these can be aspirational too. If you don't know the topic, each one of these would be a prompt that I put into Google and learn about it, read an article, and then share about that and post the article that I read from. I think the most important thing is like, don't give up. LinkedIn especially is a marathon. TikTok, you see people who get like thousands of followers within a day or two. LinkedIn, it's a marathon. It's going to be discouraging, but don't give up and like keep going at it. There's so much to learn. And the fact that you're here shows that you're willing to learn and grow. And, like I said, there's so many different topics that I wish that I could cover, but I love spending time helping people with their profiles. If this was valuable or you have specific questions, I'd be happy to meet with people one-on-one. And it's not meant to be like a one and done relationship where it's like, okay, I helped you once, see ya. But no, like with most people that I help, I like to stay in touch. If they have questions, they can reach out anytime, give them like contact information and things like that. But here's a QR code if that is something that's interesting to you. But I'll leave that up for a second. But Moroni, that's the main things that I had in mind. Happy to open it up to questions. Let me know if there's like a specific way or format that you have in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So one comment before we go to questions. So Austin is a LinkedIn expert. He is not a immigration expert. So I'll just make one comment here is talk to an immigration attorney, they will say they hear all sorts of examples of issues coming from when you misrepresent or when your LinkedIn profile or any social profile does not align with what you have stated to immigration services. And so, for example, if you show on LinkedIn that you have a full-time role when you're not authorized for a full-time role, then that can get you in trouble. And they are present on LinkedIn. They do check. So you just want to be really careful there that doesn't get you into trouble. Okay, so with that statement, let's just go through some of the questions in the chat. So first, I could say we'll send the recording out to everyone who attended, and Austin, if you're okay with it, we can attach the slides with that as well. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so we'll send that out. Samuel asked a question about how do I add volunteering experience on my LinkedIn profile.
Great. Yeah, great question. Samuel, if there is anything specific that you have in mind, let me know. If not, like from a general perspective, volunteering, it's a great opportunity on your profile. I would treat it just like any other section, like the experience section or like the education section. I think the most important thing is to give context as to what it is that you did. You know, what it is that you did to like with the volunteer experience and how is that related or relevant to your fields of interest. So it's like if I did volunteering, what type of leadership skills did I get? Or how did I demonstrate communication skills? And mostly like the volunteering experience section is honestly there to like give more personality to your profile and show what types of things you're interested in doing. Like what are you passionate about? So there's not much to it. I think just giving as much context about what you did, what it is that you're interested in, and like why it's important to you. Great question.
I'd also say that that's a great way to get a good logo on your profile. So if there's an organization that is reputable and known, then that puts a logo on your profile. And as much as we might say we don't look at that, people do. There's a certain amount of credibility that comes from that. And so, like for example, I know a lot of individuals that while I was in school, were doing on-campus internships for Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, other large organizations. And yeah, they maybe only did 10 hours a week in that, and it may not have been huge from an experience perspective, but they got a significant logo that they could put on their resume. Okay, so Rachel said, can you show the last page of the slide? Slide 13. All right, and then I'll keep going down. Personalizing messages on LinkedIn is just 200 characters. How do you write all of these?
Yeah, great question. With that, it is 200 characters, and so I would jump right into it. You know, like no, state the first thing that you have in common. And so this one was that I had the same alma mater as them. So like, hi, I'm a student at BYU studying this. Came across your profile, enjoyed the article that you wrote. If it's the approach of they worked in the restaurant industry, hi, I saw that you transitioned from Starbucks to LinkedIn. I also am looking to transition, would love to connect. You know, so it is kind of a masterclass in copywriting, making sure that you can get your point across effectively in as little characters as you can. And so focus on the most important connection that you can, and then just leave it up to, yeah, would love to connect or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and I would make one comment on that is ChatGPT can be helpful with these, but don't copy and paste. People can sniff that out pretty quickly. So so you'll want to make sure that it is personalized. Okay, then what do we write for skills in the title line, like broad topics or small skills?
Whatever is relevant to like whatever you're seeing the most in job descriptions is what I would say. if there are specific hard skills that are important, like very important, you could do something as broad as like, for example, like marketing. Yeah, marketing is very broad, but if I want to do like digital marketing roles, then I'd focus on like PPC, which stands for paid ads, social media marketing, or something like that. And then if you're looking for software engineering roles, instead of just software engineering is a good like keyword to get shown in that title, and then focus on the exact hard skills that you see are requirements for the roles that you're looking for. And so something like Java, C++, it's usually pretty specific, like in terms of the language or your ability to do something. And so I would, when in doubt, look at job descriptions and base it off of that.
All right, so another one. You said like not to add, or you said not to add soft skills in the skills section, but what if I'm targeting a job that heavily relies on soft skills like project management?
Yeah, I think it is. So, like I said, it is important to have soft skills. I would limit it to maybe 2 or 3 of the most important soft skills, like project management is a good example. With project management, you would want to highlight things like your cross collaborative abilities, to work with people from multiple departments and stakeholder management. And so being able to dissect what it is exactly about that role that requires soft skills and then highlight specific examples. So how are you able to drive value cross-functionally? And the reason why is the interview will likely be the thing that where the interviewer gauges if you actually have that soft skill. Like they're like, okay, yeah, they are good at communicating. They solved the case really well. They're good at problem solving, but likely the presence of the soft skill, if you have like 10, 15, it's, I promise, like when I was recruiting, everyone has it. It's just like Microsoft Excel. Like everyone has Microsoft Office on their LinkedIn profiles these days. And so it's like that's not the reason why I reached out to them. I reached out because of something else on the LinkedIn profile that I saw that related to the project management role that I was looking at. But that's not to say you can't include them at all. I would just be very light and focus on the most important parts of the soft skills.
If I have my work experience, which is irrelevant, would you still like me to add it for a target job?
That's a good question and very if it's all you have, if that's like what you're starting out with, you work with what you got, I would say some experience is better than nothing. And so yes, when I started on LinkedIn, I included like my non-relevant roles, but you don't want the description of the job that you're doing to be irrelevant and not related as well. And so if my job is like flipping burgers or doing stuff like that, I'm not going to focus so much on like the day-to-day task of what I did. Focus on how this not relevant job experience that you have will make you a better candidate than someone who hasn't done this before. And so with that, it's like as I was interested in sales for a while, so I was able to highlight working in the restaurant, how I was able to resolve conflicts with customers who had like orders that went incorrect, how I was able to dissolve like situations. People were very angry, and how was I able to take this tense situation and be able to fix it and, leave with a mutually beneficial interaction. And so like conflict resolution, being able to like highlight, hey, I'm going to be better at sales because I have this one-on-one personal interaction like in the sales industry, in the restaurant industry, where everything, I have a high volume of interactions every single day. And so yeah, if any experience I can say can be tied to show relevance or why it's better that you have that than not. And so yeah, focusing on the transferable skills.
All right. Any tips on dealing with lack of skills and experience as a freshman?
That's the golden question, and something that sets freshmen apart from others is the ones who have that growth mindset and want to start learning. Like go to as many, like try and participate in as many clubs as you can that are related to your field of interest. Try and volunteer for um, projects or leadership positions, and then also just start taking courses. If your university, some universities do offer free LinkedIn premium, which is awesome. That gives you access to LinkedIn Learning. Start taking these courses, and a lot of like the courses online have very relevant things like marketing fundamental, marketing strategy. There's a lot of certifications and courses that have relevant keywords and hard skills that you can include. So I think it's all about getting out there, getting involved, and using your time to upskill online. And you can share that in your volunteer section if you were a part of clubs, or your experience section as well. Like, what did you learn? What types of courses did you take, and what did you do with that?
Yeah, I'll add to that. I would just say a few things. So first, oftentimes your university might have a on-campus internship opportunity. So those are courses that are offered to either freshmen, juniors, or sophomores typically. I mean, really anybody. By the way, if you start this process as a junior or a senior, you're going to have a very hard time, because you're landing your full-time job after your senior year is heavily reliant on your experience for your junior internship. And landing that junior internship is heavily reliant on the experiences that you've had as a freshman and a sophomore. And so it kind of adds up while you're going. And so you want to make sure that you don't get behind. And so make sure you're starting early. The fact that you're on this call, it means that you're focused on it. So make sure you're starting early. The other thing that I would say is use your on-campus resources. Oftentimes, they have on-campus. They have internships that can help you land an internship that you wouldn't land otherwise, and get logos that you wouldn't get otherwise. And then the other thing I would say is I would be not aggressive, but I would be assertive in finding opportunities. For example, there was a job post. The way that I got into private equity was there was a job post from a managing director saying that he was kind of urgently looking for this one position. I didn't just apply on their website and apply on LinkedIn. I wrote him specific messages that said, "I'm your guy, and here's the reasons why." I kind of walked through it, and so I wouldn't say don't be ridiculous, but I would say that let people know that you took the time to make sure that they know that you're a fit and that you've thought through why you're a fit. Okay, Isabella, do you have a question?
Hi, yes. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much, Austin, for sharing your insight with us. I think it was really helpful for me and probably for a lot of other people. I'm currently a senior at Case Western Reserve studying chemical biology and business management, and I unfortunately was very late to the LinkedIn game, but I'm doing the best that I can to kind of catch up and grow as much as I can right now. So I was kind of curious if you could talk a little bit about what the etiquette is for connecting with people that you don't necessarily have like a relationship with. Is it kind of like you connect with people you have things in common, or would you follow somebody that you have things in common? I'm not super.
That's a great question, and it is $100 question that a lot of people don't do because they're scared, like to do it. The recommendation of reaching out to like people you have something in common with was just to increase the likeliness that they respond. It oftentimes is a numbers game. Like when I tracked, I think sometimes like only 20 to 30% of people would actually like connect. But the etiquette, first of all, that I would say is regardless of who you connect with, you should send a personalized message request of like why it is that you're interested in them and them only. Like, what is it about their experience that you would want to learn? If they do post on LinkedIn, that is like the golden opportunity to build that relationship, like before reaching out to them, comment on their posts. It helps them out. Like every time you engage, it pushes their post further into the algorithm. And so maybe comment 2 or 3 times on their posts and then reach out. They'll have seen your profile picture, they'll know who you are, and they'll be like 100 times more likely to respond. But if you don't have something in common, I think the etiquette is just to say, like, send that connection request and specifically about them. Why is it that you want to learn from their experiences, and why are you reaching out? But great question. Yeah, happy that you're able to join us today.
Okay, so we'll go through the last few questions really quickly. So Sarah says, why does it matter to have followers?
Followers honestly aren't that important. The main thing that I would say is people often shoot for, the 500 plus mark, because after that you can put it as just like 500 plus, and they don't know how many followers you have. The more followers you have, like the more opportunities you have to connect with others. But the main thing that I would say is to, as a baseline, try and get past 50 followers. And the reason why that is because there are so many bot services on LinkedIn these days that people purchase likes and followers. And so you've probably received those scam messages from bots before on LinkedIn. If you have under 50 followers, a lot of the times people are hesitant, like, is this just like a bot account? I don't know, because they usually don't spend the time to connect the bot accounts with like actual people, because that takes time. And so as a minimum, try and get past 50, and that will usually show that you're a real person. And then from there, just try and connect with people who you're interested with. And if you're actually connected, you can send them a message directly. That's like one of the big benefits, is when you're connected, you can DM them.
Okay, many jobs have soft skills in the job profile for engineering roles too. What about that?
Can you repeat that one more time?
If the job description for engineering roles have soft skills listed, do you still want to list them, or still want to avoid listing them on your profile?
Yeah, I think it's the same argument. Don't not list them, but focus on like focus on the 3 or 4 that you have. And you can't have like 10. If you only have 20 skills on your like hard skills, then you can fill up some of the soft skills. I would just mostly pin a lot of the hard skills. And so, yeah, I hope you don't get caught up on thinking like you can't include them, because you definitely can. But I from my experience recruiting, the hard skills are usually the thing that lands the interview.
Okay, I'll also say we will have additional webinars in the future on other topics around career prep. I know this is a pretty hot topic for international students, pretty essential topic for all international students, especially. So, we'll have. This isn't a standalone webinar. We'll have additional webinars on additional topics. Specifically, one will be securing internship opportunities, and so we'll be doing more of that. And if there are no other questions, I think we'll end with that. Thank you so much, Austin. I appreciate it. And as a reminder, we'll send out all of the recording and the slides after.